Hey guys, welcome back to Free to Grow. Today we are talking about how we built these metal-sided raised beds. And we actually got this idea from another YouTuber named Maya's Workshop, and we absolutely love it. We actually ended up building 3 of them last year, and we got a great harvest from them. So if you guys are looking to add raised beds to your homestead, we would definitely suggest considering these. We actually stained the wood to match the siding of the house, and then the metal siding is leftover roofing from our roof. So they literally match the house and the barns, and it's really cool. They're gonna last a long time, and they produced a lot of vegetables for us last year, and we're excited. We've already been getting seeds in for this year's harvest, and we just can't wait. So we wanted to share them with you guys and show you just how easy it was to build these. And then we used the Hugo culture method to fill them up. So we actually put large logs that were already dead. Like, we didn't put green wood in there. We put brown decaying wood in the bottom to fill up that bottom half, I would say. And then we got a awesome raised bed or garden soil mix from a local guy who does that for a living. He makes it for a living, and he happens to be a friend, so even more awesome. And that helped us cut down on how much we had to spend to fill them this first year. So we are going to add some more soil. This is our second year with them, but it at least helps you break up that upfront expense of filling these large beds. But we try to utilize all of the growing space in them, and it worked out so well. We were able to sow lots of stuff in there pretty close together just to see how that worked out, and it was awesome. So I'll let Rob get right into sharing what he did to build these things.
All right, so with these raised beds and with most projects we do around the homestead, we try to utilize stuff that we already have on the property. And we had some of these 2x6 boards, we had some 4x4 posts, and we also had some metal roofing that had come off of an old roof. So we tried to work with what we had, and this stain I'm using is one of those things. We found an old 5-gallon bucket of stain that had been used on one of the barns, and so I just decided to go ahead and paint my boards to match the other stuff on the property. So because we had 12-foot length 2x6s, we just made our dimensions 4 foot by 12 foot. These beds could be made to whatever dimension you want. We did decide to go 2 feet deep in the beds, and then use the metal roofing to side the beds. If you're using a type of roofing like we are, you're going to have to cut your metal regardless so that you can bend it around the interior of the beds. If you're using a different type of corrugated roofing, that you're not going to have to cut for depth, I would suggest making your beds to that depth so that you don't have to do any extra cutting on the metal, because cutting metal isn't always that fun. So the basic design of this bed that we kind of loosely copied from another channel is that the 4x4 posts are the corners and the middle supports, and then the 2x6s are used as your cross beams. So right here I'm just prepping all of my 4x4 posts that I had cut to 2 feet, and they will go on each corner. And then because our beds are so long, I'm putting a post at about 6 feet halfway through the bed as well. And I'd say it's definitely easier to, once you have all your parts cut, do this painting or staining if you're going to do that part. You do not have to. I'll give Charlie a quick coat of paint here. There he goes. He looks good, nice and shiny. Um, it's it's always hard for me to. I just want to like once things are cut, I want to start screwing them together, and I think about painting last. But I've learned over and over again, it's much easier to get these parts painted before assembling a project like this. Um, so I've got all my parts now painted, cut to size, and I'm just laying this out on the driveway in a flat area and assembling them with some decking screws. I think I used 2.5 inch, 3 inch deck screws that I also had from an extra project. And here you're seeing one 12-foot side of the bed. So this is kind of the idea of how these get assembled. You can assemble these sides all the same and then just attach them once you stand them up. Now, the biggest cost a lot of time that people don't think about for raised beds is filling your raised beds, and that's, lumber is expensive and all this other stuff, and you get your bed done and then you go to fill it and you are sticker shocked at how much dirt costs. So we decided to do the hugelkultur method, which is kind of like the dirt lasagna method. You layer logs and leaves and sticks before you add your top filling of soil and then some compost. So we did exactly that. We gathered some rotten logs or logs that had started to break down, larger logs, and put those at the bottom of the beds. And then we added some smaller sticks and some leaf material. You don't want too much green material in there. You're kind of wanting to get stuff that's already started to break down to the best you can. And so we fill the first, I'd say at least foot, 12 inches with that stuff. And then we added our soil into there. And we ended up, I'd say, spending just about $100 in soil for each bed. And that's only because we went through a local guy that does he has like a soil compost business, and he sold the soil with some leaf compost in it for $30 a cubic yard. That's an excellent price. If you're going to fill large beds like that, I highly suggest looking for a local resource that deals in large amounts rather than getting bags of soil from your local hardware store or a big box store, something like that. You're going to spend a lot more. Even if you pay the company to come and dump, say, 8 cubic yards with a dump truck, you'll probably still save a lot of money rather than loading individual bags of soil from a big box store into your truck and bringing it home yourself. And it's really, at the end of the day, a lot easier to work with. So here I'm kind of just securing these corners as I assemble the bed. And I'm just making sure everything's nice and square, because once I have the bed assembled, then I'm going to take the metal roofing and line the interior of the bed. And that will also shore up the structure. So when you place these beds and get ready to fill them, another issue is to consider is that when you add all of this weight and soil and material, that the sides of that bed are going to want to bow out, because it's a lot of weight and material going into these beds. So some people I've seen use like a cross brace inside the bed. Sometimes they'll do like a metal strap and secure the interior that way. I also have seen where people drive a T-post down into the ground, and that is the method we decided to go with. So once I took the bed over with the tractor and placed it where I wanted it, I then drove a T-post on each side of the interior of the bed, just like all the way into the ground. Like I buried 2 feet of a T-post into the ground to give this more structure, so that once the soil and dirt were added, it didn't bow out. Now, luckily we were utilizing the tractor to move these over here because they were heavy, but we definitely could have man-powered them into place. And the spot we're putting them behind the house here is kind of on a slight incline. So I was placing them, and then we decided, oh, they're not quite level. So we did have to kind of dig out a little bit of the area because we wanted them to be level as possible. And it wasn't too much extra work, but we did have to dig down into the hillside a little bit with a couple of them. All right, now you're seeing me start to add this interior metal roofing, and the way we had cut these sheets is so that they would bend. And so when you start with one of these, you want to start in the corner and secure your corner into place, and then you're going to overlap these sheets so that it has complete coverage and that the soil doesn't spill out, the water doesn't spill out as you're working these beds. So with the interior, I just had gotten some self-tapping metal screws. That way I'm not having to pre-drill or anything like that. And they worked out really well. You can just get, I don't know, any kind of, I'd say 1-inch self-tapping metal screw will do the job. And it's just about getting that first corner started as I'm doing here and really bending it in as well as you can. And then you go from there and just try to keep everything square and level. I do suggest wearing some gloves with this part, especially if you're using with rough cut edge metal, because that stuff is sharp and you'll be bound to cut yourself one way or another. So one of the things that we didn't get to as I'm talking about sharp metal edges is on these beds, Lizzie wanted me to put a flat ledge on top. And I remember when we built them, she said, if you don't do that right now, you will never do it. Well, it still hasn't been done. And it's still definitely on my list because the way the beds are right now, when you're working in here, you definitely can scrape or scratch yourself on that sharp metal edge. So we're just always really conscious and careful about it. But now that we have a little one running around, I need to make sure that these are a little bit safer for someone's small hands reaching in that wants to help with the garden. So you just kind of line these seams up, overlapping them, and work your way around the bed. It really, with these, I think it maybe took 2.5 roofing panels to cover the entire bed, and that's just because of the dimensions we made them. These beds are very, very adaptable to whatever you want. It's basically, this is just kind of a basic design. If you wanted to just make 4x4 foot beds, or you wanted to make them 3x8 or whatever works to your needs, this is a great design for that. And we're doing this video a year after using them for a season, and they've held up really well. I mean, we haven't seen, they look still brand new. If anything, the soil has settled a little bit because with that hugelkultur method, the stuff below is breaking down and your topsoil that you filled with is starting to settle down into the cracks and crevices of the logs that are in the lower levels. But all that stuff also is providing nutrients and also helping retain moisture for the beds. And it's just, they worked out really well. We had a really good yield last year and we feel like they're only going to get better. A lot of people make a mistake by just filling their beds with straight compost. You definitely don't want to do that. It's okay to find a soil compost blend or just use like a soil mix and then to top dress with compost, but you don't want to fill your entire bed with compost. It will be too hot for growing anything. So this year, now that we've got our beds nice and full and they've settled, we probably will just top dress with a little more of that same soil we've got. We've added a little bit of amendments this year just when we're planting, but really the goal is to have those beds set and then just be top dressing with some of our good compost. Compost is one of those things we've really not mastered yet. We've tried and tried with compost piles. Now that we have the 2 cows out on pasture, and we had them all winter, we've got a lot more material from some spent hay and manure and things like that we've been able to accumulate. And hopefully the idea is that we'll have a nice giant pile of black gold compost to top dress all of these beds bed right there. We love this so much. We built 2 more just like it, and we are so excited to get growing vegetables this year. If you have any questions or want more details on how to build these beds, please leave a comment below. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.